Welcome back to Logical Creationist, where today I'll be reviewing the Legends of Roll Call 2 video from the Tricks of the S-Trade channel. As you can see from here, the video was made on the 4th of April 2021, which is over 3 years ago now, and it's sitting at 96 likes and 7 dislikes. From the start to the 5-minute 40 mark, that is about here, there was the American Skin trailer, which was shown once again, displaying the conflict between blacks and albinos that is to come in the future. Then from 5 minutes 40 to 9 minutes 40, we see the concluding differences between a black woman and an albino woman, as shown here. From 9 minutes 40 to 19 minutes 45, we have an explanation of hospitals and the medical system, how they were made by the elites to extend the albinos' lifespan and weaken the black population to make them not see the difference between blacks and albinos, and that albinos have such an attachment to drugs and medication, which is actually poison. So it's quite interesting to think about. This lasts up to about here. Next, from 1945 minutes to 36 minutes is Matt Hamill, who is famously known as Luke Skywalker from the Star Wars franchise and is an FTM, so a female to male transgender. Within that, we also see comparisons with Layla Ali, who is a real female, a TV personality and former professional boxer. Let's take a look. This is her Wikipedia page, and she's the daughter of legend boxer Muhammad Ali and seems to have a undefeated record. Whether she deserved that or it was rigged, well, I guess we'll have to leave that. However, I just wanted to point out, by just looking at her, you can tell that, I like to call it, she looks borderline Indian. Like, you can tell that there's been some albinic admixture in her lineage. Like, they can come out and say I'm 100% black, but just by looking at the facial features, it's not like you can tell the difference between this person and, let's say, somebody from West Africa or even South Central. You get the point, right? After that, we see Michelle Obama resurface, who is a MTF, that is a male to female, and that means that him and Barack Obama are homosexuals, which was first revealed on the Myth of Whiteness series. From the 36-minute mark, this is where we are told about how wisdom and knowledge is gotten, and it's not for everybody. And I was able to conclude it as there's 4 different types of intelligence. And just to clarify that, I'm only speaking this from my opinion, therefore you shouldn't take it as the end all be all. This is just the way I was able to process it. So feel free to question me with logic if you think that what I'm saying isn't correct or doesn't make sense. So at the top of all things, I was able to put into 4. At the top would be the infinite intelligence, which would be the creator of the universe. Then after that is those who possess supreme intelligence, which would be the all-knowing ones, the oracles that speak for the creator himself. Then after that would be natural intelligence, which belongs to the children of the creator and the righteous who are amongst the Gentile nations. And last and definitely least is artificial intelligence, which is what the wicked and the abominable of mankind and albinic people will be getting before they face their final judgment. which Tricks of the S-Trade channel goes in much details to, so I will not reveal it because it's not my position to do so. And I only speak on things that are relative to what I'm talking about specifically. The all-knowing ones know all, and that the Creator gives them that information, and they are his physical embodiments on the earth. The righteous includes the children of the Creator and the Gentiles, which are the Creator's seed. The modern Bibles are only 40% accurate due to the elites owning the Vatican corrupting scriptures. The all-knowing ones are aware of what was imputed and what was removed from scriptures. Therefore, they know what the real stories would have been and not the current ones. This was all done and aided by Romans, who later made Christianity to conceal the wicked and deceive the righteous people. As the narrator goes along, we find out that there's no such thing as sin, but actually abominations and crimes of restitutions. So the abominations were revealed, which is homosexuality, transgenderism, inbreeding, so sleeping with relatives, pedophilia, bestiality, and rape. So anybody that does any of those is definitely going to the lake of fire. And one would think, oh, what about crossbreeding? But I haven't mentioned that because when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. I treat each review as if I haven't seen the videos after, but obviously by the way I'm speaking, obviously I have. So I have to be careful in the way I reveal information or go over it. That way I'm not going too far ahead of what is being presented in front of me. Yeah. From this Wikipedia page, we can see that homosexuality was actually classified as a mental disorder in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM, the beginning with the first edition published in 1952 by the American Psychiatric Association. This classification was challenged. Of course it was challenged because most people are wicked. And when was this changed? Okay, so it was updated in 1974 and it was replaced with a new diagnostic code for individuals distressed about their... I would have left the link, but if anybody needs it, send me an email. And of course, as long as you are going on the right path, then I have no problem with sending it to you, because this was actually brought to my attention by someone I met on walking the path of righteousness and following the truth of the Creator. Now we go to a very delicate area, which is what took me some time to make this video, because I wanted to make sure what I was saying made sense. And yeah, that's about it. What I was saying makes... Around this point, the 1 hour 16:35 part, we find out what the real definition of rape is. Simply put, it's the abduction of a person, usually a woman, but it can happen in the reverse at times, especially if it's an older woman and a younger man, and them being forced to be intimate with a stranger that they've never seen before, and nobody's there to help them or stop the unfortunate incident from happening. A lot of women might look at that and say no means no, but the problem with that is not everybody can be trusted, so both man and woman, especially in this modern day. However, any man that tries to force himself on a woman, he knows is not only a pervert but an abuser as well, and should be avoided by any woman that considers herself righteous. A man that does that has other crimes that he will definitely be judged against in his wickedness. But your job as a woman is to avoid the effeminate men that can't control their impulses and think logically. On the other hand, as a man, naturally, if your woman says no to you physically, and when I say physically, you know exactly what I'm talking about, I don't need to be explicit, that's not a problem. If it persists, you investigate the situation and do the needful to try and either rectify or dissolve the relationship. Amongst mankind, there are more women than men. So you go out there and get yourself another woman who is single. I have to make emphasis on that. Who is single, and your problem is solved. This happens a lot. And then the woman cries that he cheated on me. But that's a whole nother talking point, which I'll address later. Now is not the time. For the women indoctrinated by the stupid damned education system that were confused and thought that Tricks of the Estrade were rape apologists in a way that you've been brainwashed by the system should get that out of their minds, and for it to be clear now so that you are to think logically in all that you do despite being more emotional than a man. Here is a general meaning for rape apologist: somebody that blames the survivors and has general disbelief in allegations of assault and participates in the normalization of sexual violence. So those are the Tricks of the Estrade team. If you're able to read in between the lines, I'm not saying that it's right for a man to just go and do that, but a woman must be wise and know that we are living in very bad times. So you can't just say, oh, this person could, because there's a lot of crazy people, like I said, both men and women. So you have to act accordingly, and naturally, if you are to keep to yourself and you don't go out places late night, and there's a bit more to it, you can avoid the chances being higher of it happening. But it's such an unfortunate circumstance for somebody to be in, to go through that. So that's why it must be clarified of what it is and what it isn't. For women, until or if you have a righteous man in your life to guide you, you are to take responsibility of your actions and not assume others will do right by you, because we live in a world with mostly evil populations. No righteous man will hear this and start thinking, let me go and take advantage of the women I know, because it's only from a wicked mindset that such actions can take place. This is why it's important for a woman to have a masculine presence that truly cares for them, so that they do not misinterpret the truth and stay in deception. It mustn't be a man that is older in age or a blood relative, but a man that can be trusted. Around the 1 hour 34-45 mark, I believe the narrator tells a story about an encounter they had with an albinic person. So I also had one. This was about 5 years ago when I was going about my day doing some household errands, and I met this Indian lady, and I could tell just by the physical appearance they were from the Indian subcontinent. So at least one of the Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, or India itself, just a South Asian. So they're all albinos, but just to give clarity on that. So I gave this lady, let's say $10. It was a bit more because of the currency I use where I am. It was a bit more than that, but she's told me that we have no home and they had a child with them. And back then, in my Christian mindset, I was like, why not let me do good? And to my surprise, this woman, well, if I can even call her that, but that's later on, had the audacity to look at me, point to their cash machine and say, can you go and get me more? I was like, wow. See, even amongst mankind, when you give someone something, they'll show gratitude, they'll say thank you. Their mind might be, even their facial expression might show that they're not fully satisfied, but unless they believe it's completely disrespectful, they'll not throw it back in your face, because usually it's from somebody that you know, so you are able to gauge what to expect. But this is a complete stranger thinking that they're entitled to more. So if I was the way I am now, I would have taken back that money. But back then I was still in my Christian mindset, trying to figure out who God was. Now obviously I want nothing to do with God, and it was a very big learning curve for me, because that made me realize that, like Tricks of the Estrade said, the narrator put it, I'm not responsible for your plight. And if this is how the response I'm getting, once I'm walking past them on the street, I don't even pay them. I don't even give any eye contact. And even I treat the same as people that are trying to sell something, like, oh, this, we're raising money for, that's none of my business, unfortunately. So as soon as I see them from a distance, I already know I will purposefully walk out of your way to make it clear, do not talk to me. And if you do talk to me, I will politely say, I'm not interested. Simple as that. After that, we see that the Creator never gave his only begotten Son, which was a fabrication to support the false Trinity, to deceive righteous people, because the Trinity actually represents Satan and two other demons. then we know that there's no need to do good, because if you have not done any wickedness, and this can extend to blood relatives, that if you can see that they're not righteous, you have no obligation to assist them, because assisting evil is only going to make you an accomplice to wickedness, in which you, the righteous person, are the one to suffer for that. An example in borrowing money that you don't get back, or help that isn't appreciated, etc. And that continues down here. Anytime that you do a mistake and you correct it, correct that evil by doing good, which is your restitution to whoever you have wronged. And the Creator says that you shall not do wickedness, and Satan says that you shall do good, which are two different things. Towards the end, we find out that there's no such thing as an age of accountability, and only a few albinos may survive the end of time. So this is them making an introduction to a point they'll make in more detail in a later video, which once I come across it, then I can go into more detail, of course. Good and evil will never change, and everything replicates after its kind. And that should wrap up everything. So 1 to 5 is there. 6, we get updated information on that afterwards. Once we get through that, then we can explain that further. Now we're going to take a look at the live chat and see how people were thinking. V Ward, he does some good impressions. This is him talking about the narrator. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, for sure, they're all FTMs and MTFs. Not all of them, but enough to distort your reality. It wouldn't make sense if every single elite would be a transgender, because some of them have to enjoy their ill-gotten wealth. Have you talked about the word Amen, which is a god? I believe it's got something to do with Amen-Ra, which is an Egyptian deity, something to do with that. But I've read up on that in my research before coming across the truth. Learn to tell a witches from the Three Hearts Church. I don't know what who's there is talking about, but they had to spend their time, money, and research to write the books. Judging from the length and depth of the book, it took years to compile. If you worked years on a project, spending your own money and time on it, would you give it away for free? Yeah, that's a valid point he's making. Samaras, Nimrod, Tammuz, only Trinity. Catholics are worshipping Samaras, Tammuz. They don't know it. Death of Christ, they're mocking Jesus. So I'm not sure if who's there still believes in Jesus, but that's not the message that the tricks of the Earth Trade are trying to portray. The only thing this channel puts out is truth, correct? They never lied or propagate lies like other channels do all the time. I do not trust any pastors. Yeah, neither do I, because they're all priests of Satan. I was so confused whether or not to go to church until I found this channel. I was in the same boat. So if the New Testament is garbage, does that mean Jesus never existed? Well, from what I know of, which I can't go into details because I'm not a teacher, Jesus was an imposter for who would have been the creator in human flesh. That's about it. I know that the letter J is 500 years old, but I'm talking about the actual person. Okay, understandable. Yes, my daughter. Notice the person in the back. I'm not sure if she's talking about the image, Janelle James Alexandra. The creator is very real. Yes, he is. I have not attended church. I was going for over 20 years. New young pastor was not going to speak on the book of Daniel, Ezekiel, and Revelation for 8 years. That was 4 to 5 years ago. Sorry to hear that. Yeah. They're clearly avoiding the difficult parts of scripture, which clearly the pastors can't interpret because they're not called by so-called God. Well, technically they are called by God, but they're not called by the creator. The part I know, I believe in the creator, bronze skin and woolly white hair. That is the perception that the Hebrew Israelites have. So I don't think the creator would have had white hair, because everything to do with white is not positive. Let's just put it like that. But they haven't mentioned it yet, so I will not go into detail. Also, I was pretty sure there was a witch in the church. I tried to show the young pastor the holidays were pagan. He tried to say I was being legalistic, total cognitive dissonance. Well, that individual just doesn't have common sense. They explain that in the book. Yeah, no steady buyer, the remnant extended DVD gets into the topic of Adam and Eve. Yes, and God allowed that to create the human race. This, he put a stop to it. It's very sad, and the Apocrypha removed from the KJV. I built a copy of it so I could learn what was hidden from us. As a matter of fact, there is an Apocrypha for the Geneva Bible, but it was quite hidden. I was able to find it for myself, so it actually has references to other parts of scripture. So naturally, it would be more superior to the one from the KJV. Yes, so many Christians don't know that America is still doing that today for the Revolutionary War, British Crown Colony. See, this is all from information that the wicked give us, so we can't really verify if everything there is true. But come on, I just wish I could grow my own food and not have to work for anybody else. Most definitely, I agree with that. One time, I had a lemon and lime tree next to each other, and they turned green inside. I thought it was creepy. And interestingly, there's something about lemon and lime which, let's just say, they're not good. That's all I can say. Hyenas, wolves, pigs, so many people, yeah, those are what constitute the different breeds of dogs. TOTTS is speaking the same language as those pastors he condemns to bear the weight of your own existence. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. And this person clearly lacks understanding. Caleb Maine, who's there? Plastic surgery was not created for normal people. It's to hide FTMs and MTFs. Okay, that's a reasonable statement. Very tricky. Satan wants to carry the weight of his own existence too. He wants to be God based on his position and what he can do. Trading one pagan ideology for another, hence tricks of the S trade, tricking you from facts to trade in the same ideology with a twist. This person, clearly it's going in one ear and out the other for him. Who said I knew I was a snake before you took me? And nothing this channel has ever said or promoted is pagan. Nothing. That's true. Like generational curses. If everyone has committed sin, then how can you correct it? You can't solve it. They literally explain it in the video, but this one clearly doesn't have common sense. Century after century, it gets worse. He told you pay restitution. Yep. Pretty sure Ham's wife had some Nephilim blood, and that's why they were giants after that. Interesting. Caleb, let's say you go back to the person to pay restitution. They've been carrying contention against you. Is it safe to go to them? Does God want to put you in danger? Well, God is Satan, so unless you're talking about the creator, which does not care for wicked people, then you can just tell this person is just completely confused. Very true, out of order. There's no one saved, always saved. Yeah. TOTTS is your God now. He's making you rely on his knowledge and not directly on God. Interesting, because the narrator's made it very clear that it's not just him speaking, that he's speaking on behalf of the all-knowing ones who give him a script to tell the public the truth. Because I'm trying to understand, is it that God speaks to Caleb Maine, which would be Satan speaks to you? I don't think that's somebody a righteous person should be listening to. So this people like that is the reason why I go over these live chats. Obviously, there's some that they just have to be removed, certain comments where it's like you're just trying to drive traffic to some other nonsense, but stuff like this needs to be highlighted because there's individuals that just don't have reasoning ability, unfortunately. And V Ward is laughing at it, rightly so. Satan will give you facts as long as it leads you to rely on anything but God himself. If you believe that, then leave. That's right, just leave and find something else fun to do with your weekend. Then Miss E, Kerry Con, don't you think you should ask whom you have wronged for forgiveness? That's reasonable. Okay, just asking. So maybe that person has deleted their comment, the person who would have been known as Kerry Con. If it's safe, you can. Sometimes that is a reason to kill you. Reprobates don't care about forgiveness, neither do narcissists. They'll use it to blackmail you. But let's put it like this. You owe somebody something. So if you give them the money equivalent, you transfer it to them. You don't have to see them if you are afraid of going to see. But why would you have dealings with somebody that you're not comfortable with? That's about it. Reward seems to find it amusing, as do I, because the individual doesn't make sense. Caleb made. On that note, the video. So yeah, and there are 2 more abominations frequently practiced by the public, which can be restituted for, to be continued. That's the end of Legends of Raw Call 2 video review from Tricks of the S Trade. That will be all from me for now. So thank you for watching, and until next time, bye.